Day 6, Guadalcanal. Try number 2. Hopefully this one doesn't get deleted. The question is, why was the Battle of Guadalcanal the turning point of the entire war? You notice this sounds familiar because I asked almost the same question for Stalingrad. Stalingrad was the turning point in Europe. Guadalcanal is the turning point in Asia. So last time we were talking about Stalingrad way over here in Eurasia, between Europe and between Germany and the Soviet Union. Now we're talking about the Pacific again. So kind of going back and forth, but chronologically, Guadalcanal happens at about the same time as Stalingrad, and it happens at about the same time as the ramp up in the Holocaust. First question, why did the Allies use the strategy of island hopping? So the US and the Allies decided to use a strategy called hopping from island to island, starting at Hawaii, then to Midway, then to some other islands, and we're going to move all the way down here. You might think at first, wait, island hopping, moving closer and closer to Japan, you should be going this way. Why go down here? Well, the strategy of island hopping was to move closer to Japan, but it was also to pick off the easier targets first and work your way towards harder targets. Kind of like how on a test you might answer the easy questions first and save the hard ones for the end. We were going to try to hit the easy targets first and save the hard ones for the end here. It would give our troops a chance to get some experience, and it would build our confidence. And strategically, Guadalcanal is an island down here quite near to Australia, and strategically it's important to capture it, not because we wanted it, but because we wanted Japan to not have it. Because if Japan had it, then they could threaten Australia, and Australia is our ally. So Guadalcanal is a great island. As an example for island hopping, it was important for purely strategic reasons. These are some pictures of the landings on these islands. Guadalcanal is much like all these other island campaigns. This is a landing craft. It's a little tiny boat. Soldiers get off a big boat, get into a little boat. The little boat gets close to the island, and then the back of it opens up, and they run down the gangplank into the water and up onto the beach. At Guadalcanal, the beach landing was pretty uneventful. There was no resistance. It was a cloudy day. The Japanese didn't see them coming, so they got the troops onto the island uneventfully. Second question is, why and how was the battle a turning point for the war in general? And the answer is that before this war, Japan had more supplies, more military supplies, more Navy supplies, and after this battle, they had less than the US. The Imperial Japanese Navy had a numerical advantage in aircraft carriers, battleships, destroyers, submarines, and aircraft compared to the Allies. After the Battle of Guadalcanal, they had far less than the Allies did, and during the battle, the US industry was able to build 7 new ships, 2 aircraft carriers, 62 destroyers, and 18 submarines, which more than doubled the stuff that they had lost in the battle itself. After the victory at Guadalcanal, the Allies were able to launch their attack against the Japanese at many other islands, and at this point, the Americans and the Allies, the Australians especially, are going to be numerically in the numerical advantage in terms of supplies, ships, airplanes, etc. That means that we're going to be able to be more aggressive from here on out. The main strategic goal on Guadalcanal was to gain the airstrip. That's right here. An airstrip, it's kind of just like the runway part of an airport. There's no airport, there's no buildings, because it's just for military aircraft to land and take off. This airstrip was important because it's close enough that if you took off from here, a plane could threaten Australia. So the airstrip was being constructed when the US captured it. You can see the landing was at the beaches way over here, and then the troops fought their way inland this way and this way, kind of going from 2 sides. They don't go all the way around this way because from the topography you can see here there's a mountain, so they're not going to go over the mountain. Capture of the airfield was the main strategic importance, and it's connected to the fact that this was a turning point in equipment strategy. Numerical advantage in airplanes and ships and all these other things are what is going to help the US to win. This picture is significant here because the US captured the airfield, we also captured all the tools to maintain the airfield. So not only did the Japanese not have the airfield, but we did. The troops in Guadalcanal called their time there hell. Why? Well, you can tell from these pictures. It is a horrible, brutal, violent, bloody battle. Thousands of soldiers killing each other over an island that neither side really wants, but both sides want the other side to not have. And on top of it, it's a subtropical island. It's very hot. It rains a lot. You're very sweaty and muddy. And there's scary, crazy, creepy animals. Centipedes, spiders, rats, bats, and crocodiles. So you imagine the fear and terror of creeping through the jungle, the tropical rainforest, trying to find the enemy. And you also have to deal with these crazy animals. Imagine hiding, waiting to ambush the enemy, and then one of these centipedes starts climbing up your leg. Imagine walking across this river, worried that you're going to get hit by a sniper, and you also have to worry about crocodiles. One more thing that made it hell is that it's just really, really hot for much of the time there. So you can see on this bottom right-hand side, right here, these are some Japanese soldiers being pulled out of a cave that they were hiding in after they died. But Japanese troops reported, some who survived, reported afterwards that, the lack of water was just a big problem. At a certain point, running out of water was the main problem in these battles. So if you want to think about it, at the same time, parallel on opposite sides of the planet, Stalingrad, the Nazis are losing against the Soviets because the Nazis don't have the right equipment for the cold, and they don't have enough food. On the other side of the planet, in Guadalcanal, the Japanese are losing not because it's hot, but because it's hot and they don't have enough water and enough food, they're dying. And so the climate, the geography is playing a role in both cases. This brings us to question 4. What did the Bonsai Charge tell us about the mindset of Japanese troops? So Japanese troops followed the Bushido code. We talked about that a long time ago with Tojo, and a little bit more recently with the Japanese invasion of China and the Bataan Death March in the Philippines. Part of the samurai code of Bushido was that you were never to surrender. Death before dishonor is a way that some people put it. So you're supposed to die, even to the extent of committing suicide, before you allow yourself to be taken prisoner. A Bonsai Charge is a suicidal charge into the face of the enemy, perhaps when you've run out of ammunition. Rather than surrender, like here, you run like this, straight at the enemy, into certain death. Like you run straight at the enemy and you know you're gonna get shot and you know you're gonna die, but you do it anyway. This photo is the aftermath of one of these charges. So the troops just jump out of their hiding place and run straight at the enemy, knowing that they're gonna get shot and knowing they're gonna get killed. The battle cry, Tenno Heika Bonsai, means, it's cropped off here a little bit, but it means basically long live His Majesty the Emperor. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but the key part is the last part of the phrase that the US troops really remembered, which is the part where they say bonsai. And it basically came to mean just a crazy suicidal last-ditch effort. Basically, the Japanese troops knew that they weren't going to kill the enemy in the process. It wasn't a sacrifice your life or risk your life to try to take out the enemy. It was a sacrifice your life to scare the enemy into knowing that you aren't afraid of dying, literally in honor of your emperor. That's all the questions for today. So you need to tie all that together and explain why this battle was sort of the turning point of the entire war. Turning point psychologically, turning point materially, turning point strategically. Thanks.